You thought you were strong, not because you had conquered demons, but because you had hidden them well, because you had learned how to smile while bleeding, because you had mastered the art of distraction, the illusion of control. You believed that as long as no one saw your fractures, they were not real. That if you kept moving forward, nothing from the past could catch you. But then she left, and in that silence, something louder than words echoed through your soul. It wasn't just the absence of her presence, it was the collapse of a false self. She didn't break your heart. She revealed the brokenness that had always been there, sealed behind years of performance, repression, and misplaced pride. She wasn't your enemy. She was the revealer, the uninvited prophet who walked softly into your temple and touched the idol of your self-image. And it cracked. You see, the pain isn't just about her. It never was. It's about the part of you that believed love could heal what only truth can reach. That if someone finally chose you, the boy inside would stop screaming. That if you were seen, the shame would finally vanish. You weren't looking for a partner. You were looking for a redemption you didn't know how to ask for. And when she saw the cracks and stepped away, it wasn't betrayal. It was revelation. Because now you're alone. And in that aloneness, you're naked. No one to impress. No script to follow. Just you and your ache. The ache that was never about her. The ache that began long before you met her. The ache of a boy who learned to perform instead of feel. To chase instead of rest. To seduce instead of trust. A boy who became a man in body, but not in soul. Now you see it. All the ways you used her attention to silence your fear. All the moments you mistook connection for salvation. All the prayers you wrapped in desire, hoping that God would give you a woman instead of giving you a mirror. But the mirror came, and it shattered the fantasy. The truth is, you didn't know love. You knew attachment. You knew how to cling, not how to build. You knew how to impress, not how to serve. You knew how to want, but not how to protect. Because no one taught you. They taught you to chase goals, not to guard your heart. They trained your hands for work, but not your soul for warfare. They gave you tools for conquest, but no map for healing. And so you found her, or she found you. And for a moment, the ache quieted. The chaos settled. She became your calm. But she was never meant to be your center. And the moment you made her your foundation, the collapse became inevitable. Not because she was cruel, but because God loves you too much to let you build your life on illusion. Now you are in the ruins. And it is here, in the dust of what was, that something sacred begins. Not the return of what you lost, but the discovery of what you forgot. Your own soul. Your divine design. The image of a man not created to beg for affection, but to burn with purpose. Not built to be chosen, but to choose the path of fire and silence and sacred dominion. But the first step is this. You must sit with the pain. No more running, no more blaming, no more masking your grief with busyness or new bodies or shallow prayers. Sit. Feel. Remember. Let the ache teach you. Let the silence expose you. Let the tears become your baptism. Because before the resurrection comes the death, not of your body, but of your false identity. The one who needed her to feel whole. The one who believed that without her, life had no meaning. The one who thought being needed was the same as being known. Let him die. Because the man you are becoming cannot be built on desperation. He must be forged in solitude, in surrender, in the sacred darkness where only God sees and only truth speaks. This is not punishment, it is purification. The woman is gone, but what remains is holy ground, and it must not be wasted. She did not destroy you, she uncovered you. She did not reject you. She revealed the parts of you that had never healed. You were not betrayed, you were called. Called back to the inner temple, to the fire, to the silence, to the war beneath your skin. This is the beginning. Stay with it. You wake up, but not with clarity, with weight, a heaviness in your chest that no sleep can lift. The world around you hasn't changed. Cars still move, people still laugh, the sun still shines. But something inside has shifted, as if your spirit no longer fits inside your body. As if you were built for something more, but spent years living beneath your design. This is grief, but not the kind that fades with time. This is the grief of realizing you were wrong about everything, not just about her, but about yourself, about what it meant to be a man, about what it meant to love, about what it meant to carry purpose in a world that worships distraction. You thought being needed was strength, that being pursued was worth, that being loved was the reward for enduring your silence. But now you see, you were not living, you were compensating. And love, real love, cannot heal what you still refuse to confront. So you try to forget. You scroll, you message, you return to old haunts, old voices, old comforts. But nothing satisfies. Because once your eyes open, you can't go back to blindness. Once your soul begins to thirst for truth. But even in the silence, he is speaking, not with words, but with weight. Every discomfort, every restless night, every ache in your spirit is a summons. You are being pulled, not by her absence, but by the presence you once ignored. The divine has come not to comfort you, but to confront you, to place a sword in your hand and a mirror before your eyes. Because this isn't just heartbreak, this is war. War against your addictions, war against your emotional dependency, war against the narrative that told you masculinity meant suppressing pain instead of transforming it. And in war, you must choose your weapons. Will you numb yourself, or will you face the wound? Will you seduce another, or will you sanctify your energy? Will you run to women, or will you run to the altar? The choice is not easy, because pain invites escapism, and the world offers many escapes. But every escape delays your awakening. Every distraction is a detour from destiny, and every woman you pursue without purpose becomes a mirror of your unhealed self. Do not blame her. She did not cause your fall. She simply triggered the collapse of a fortress that was built on sand. You can mourn her presence, but do not resent her revelation. She was never yours to possess. She was a messenger, and now that she is gone, the message remains. You are not who you thought you were, but you can become who you were always meant to be. If you are willing to pass through the fire, this is the time of burning, of sacred dismantling, of letting the layers fall, the performative strength, the charm, the ego, the seduction. All must die. Because what must rise is not the man she wanted, it is the man God intended. The one who does not chase affection, but walks in authority. The one who does not seek validation, but gives vision. The one who leads not with noise, but with presence. This man is born in silence, in solitude, in surrender. So let the pain work. Let it shape you. Do not pray for escape, pray for eyes to see. Do not ask for relief, ask for revelation. Why did you need her so much? What did you hope she would fix? Where does your emptiness come from? Trace it, not to her, but to the boy who still lives in your shadow. The boy who learned that love was something to earn, that affection was proof of worth, that silence meant rejection. He is still there. He is not your enemy. He is your beginning. But he cannot lead. He must be led. He must be fathered. He must be brought into the presence where healing happens. Not through women, not through romance, but through remembrance of who you are when no one is watching, when no one is validating, when only God sees. This is your sacred path. This is the pain of becoming. Do not run from it. You are not being punished. You are being purified. You stopped blaming her. That was the first sign of awakening. Not when you stopped missing her, not when you stopped fantasizing about her return, but when you stopped pointing at her as the cause of your collapse. Because deep down you knew she only touched the wound. She didn't create it. And now that the noise is fading, something else is rising. Something older than pain, something deeper than desire. Silence. But not the silence of abandonment, the silence of invitation, the silence of God before He speaks, the silence of the wilderness before the revelation, the silence before a man becomes fire. This is the desert of the soul. Here, there are no distractions, no images to feed the fantasy, no voices to soothe the ego. Just you and your shadow. You and the parts of you you tried to drown in affirmation. You and the boy who still cries for validation. You and the God who refuses to let you settle for less than your calling. This is where men are forged. Not in comfort, in conflict, not in pleasure, in purpose, not in applause, in anonymity. You feel forgotten, good. That is how saints are born. That is where prophets are carved. That is where warriors are trained. You are not being overlooked. You are being hidden, because the world doesn't need another broken man in a beautiful relationship. The world needs a whole man with a holy mission. And holiness begins with separation. Not from people, from patterns. The pattern that told you to chase her. The pattern that taught you to worship her. The pattern that convinced you that your soul could be completed by skin, scent, and soft whispers. You were never meant to be completed. You were meant to be commissioned. And no woman, no matter how divine her energy, can substitute for the voice that called you from the womb. She left me, you say. No, she exited the stage when her role was complete. She came to shake the idol. She came to break the illusion. She came to deliver the pain that would send you searching for the truth. And that truth is this. You are not ready to lead until you are ready to bleed. Not in front of her. In front of God. That's the blood He wants. Not of goats or bulls, but of pride, illusion, addiction, and performance. So you go deeper. You start fasting. Not just from food, but from fantasy. You delete the archives, the texts, the photos, the fragments of false hope. You stop chasing, not just her, but the validation cycle. You stop seducing, not just women, but yourself. Because for the first time, you are not running. You are resting in the fire. And in that fire, the boy starts to speak. I never felt enough, he says. I just wanted to be seen, he cries. I thought if she loved me, I could finally be at peace, he whispers. You do not silence him this time. You do not shame him, you hold him. Not with your hands, with your awareness. You weep. Not for her, for him. And that's when it happens. You begin to see, not just the pain, the pattern. Not just the wound, the wisdom. Not just the fall, the fire. You are not just healing, you are awakening. Because grief, when honored, becomes a gate. Not back to her, back to God. And God doesn't just want to comfort you, He wants to crown you. But the crown only fits a head that is bowed. Bow now, in silence, in reverence, in fire. The grief no longer haunts you, it teaches you. It's no longer a wave you try to outrun. It's a river you walk through with eyes open. You've stopped asking, why did she leave? And started asking, what was I blind to? That shift, that sacred shift, is the sign you've crossed a threshold. You no longer want her back. You want yourself back. Not the self who chased affection. Not the self who bent for validation. But the self who can stand alone in silence and still hear the voice of God. Because now you know. It wasn't about her. It never was. She was the spark, not the fire. She was the mirror, not the source. She was the gate, not the garden. And the garden is within. The place where you walk with God in the cool of the day. The place where your masculinity is no longer defined by conquest, but by consecration. You've touched that place now. In prayer, in fasting, in solitude, in your quiet rejection of the patterns that once enslaved you. You are no longer seduced by the soft lie that love will fix you. You are led by the hard truth that only death to self will free you. And so you rise, but not with swagger, with sobriety, not with noise, with gravity. You no longer chase women to prove you're a man, because now you are too busy protecting the man you've become. You no longer fantasize about being needed, because now you know what it means to be sent. And when you look in the mirror, you don't see a lover, you see a sentinel, the guardian of your soul, the keeper of sacred fire. You speak less now, because you've realized power isn't in volume, it's in vision. You don't explain yourself to everyone, because kings don't need to be understood, only to be aligned. She left, and it broke you. Good. Because what broke was the version of you that could never carry the calling that is now forming. She left, and you were alone. Perfect. Because in the silence, you remembered the voice that first named you. The one who said, "You are my son." She left, and you wept. Beautiful. You hold him, not with your hands, with your awareness. You weep, not for her, for him. And that's when it happens. You begin to see, not just the pain, the pattern, not just the wound, the wisdom, not just the fall, the fire. You are not just healing, you are awakening. Because grief, when honored, becomes a gate, not back to her, back to God. And God doesn't just want to comfort you, He wants to crown you. But the crown only fits a head that has bowed. Bow now, in silence, in reverence, in fire. The grief no longer haunts you, it teaches you. It's no longer a wave you try to outrun. It's a river you walk through with eyes open. You've stopped asking, "Why did she leave?" and started asking, "What was I blind to?" That shift, that sacred shift, is the sign you've crossed a threshold. You no longer want her back, you want yourself back. Not the self who chased affection, not the self who bent for validation, but the self who can stand alone in silence and still hear the voice of God. Because now you know, it wasn't about her. It never was. She was the spark, not the fire. She was the mirror, not the source. She was the gate, not the garden. And the garden is within. The place where you walk with God in the cool of the day. The place where your masculinity is no longer defined by conquest, but by consecration. You've touched that place now. In prayer, in fasting, in solitude, in your quiet rejection of the patterns that once enslaved you. You are no longer seduced by the soft lie that love will fix you. You are led by the hard truth that only death to self will free you. And so you rise, but not with swagger, with sobriety, not with noise, with gravity. You no longer chase women to prove you're a man, because now you are too busy protecting the man you've become. You no longer fantasize about being needed, because now you know what it means to be sent. And when you look in the mirror, you don't see a lover. You see a sentinel, the guardian of your soul, the keeper of sacred fire. You speak less now, because you've realized power isn't in volume, it's in vision. You don't explain yourself to everyone, because kings don't need to be understood, only to be aligned. She left, and it broke you. Good. Because what broke was the version of you that could never carry the calling that is now forming. She left, and you were alone. Perfect. Because in the silence, you remembered the voice that first named you, the one who said, "You are my son." She left, and you wept. Beautiful. Because only men who have tasted ashes can speak with fire. You don't hate her. You honor the role she played, but you don't wait for her return, because that chapter is over. And the man who writes the next one is not the man who begged to be loved. He is the man who learned to love discipline, the man who cherishes stillness, the man who protects his seed, his time, his vision, not because he is afraid, but because he has remembered who he is. This man is not loud, he is luminous. He does not flex, he flows. He does not seduce, he sanctifies. He does not perform, he prays. And from this place, from this sacred stillness, he begins to move again. Not toward escape, but toward embodiment. He works, he builds, he trains, he worships, not to be seen, but because he sees. And one day, maybe soon, maybe never, he meets a woman. And when he looks at her, he does not see a savior. He sees a mirror of his mission. Not someone to complete him, someone to walk with him, not someone to distract him, someone to reflect him. And if she walks away, he does not collapse, because his foundation is no longer flesh, it is fire. And fire cannot be abandoned, it only spreads. So let this be your vow. I will not forget who I was when she left. I will not forget the prayers I prayed in the silence. I will not forget the boy I met in the darkness. I will not trade my altar for an appetite. I will not sell my peace for pleasure. I will not give my strength to what has not been tested. Because you, man of fire, are not just healed, you are holy. And holy men do not chase what broke them. They build altars from the ruins, and they burn. Amen.